what is going on? Welcome to WrestleCinema, a podcast focusing on wrestlers who decide to pursue acting. I am your host, Joe, and on today's episode, we're talking the 2009 film starring John Cena, 12 Rounds, his second full-length feature movie. He's the star, and we're going to go into it. That is one of the topics we'll be having on this podcast today. And as I mentioned, if you listen to my first episode featuring The Marine, where we go over John Cena's first movie, we're going to be talking every major role John Cena has had, from major roles to even cameos in certain shows. We'll touch on it a little bit. We're just going through the whole, filmography of John Cena. And then, of course, we're going to talk about other famous wrestlers who have dived into acting. Stone Cold, big one. Batista, one of the biggest. The Rock, But then there's other people like Roddy Piper, Trish Stratus, Diamond Dallas Page. The list goes on and on. So we have plenty to talk about, but thank you for listening. This is our second episode. If you haven't already, follow us on all platforms when it comes to social media. That's at WrestleCinema on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. We have content coming down on all areas. A lot of it is like, when we're going to review a movie, I like to put some fun facts on there. I'm going to incorporate some podcast clips in there. We're going to have some unique content that'll be on the YouTube and, of course, on the social medias that won't always be pertaining about to the movies and whatnot of these wrestlers. Like some of the stuff you might find on the Instagram or, TikTok might be like memes or stuff like that. But, wrestling movie related content is what we do here. So on today's episode, I have a guest. It's not just me rambling for this entire episode. I got my boy Finn. And if you're familiar with any of the work that I've done on my other podcasts that I've tried to do and then eventually stopped, but I don't see that happening here. I hope. Finn has really been a great help, and he's done episodes of Project Kayfabe, my original podcast, where we touched on movies and wrestling, two separate content in one show. And then when I went to Strictly Nonsense to make that only really about whatever I wanted, but mostly movies, he was on there. But now we have him here. We're talking 12 Rounds with John Cena. But before we get into that, of course, there's some other things I want to talk about because I want to add a little bit of variety to these shows. So I want to briefly touch on the wrestling world. I haven't talked about wrestling in quite some time. So, now I kind of want to, especially a lot has happened since releasing the first episode of WrestleCinema. We released on April 1st, and obviously we've had WrestleMania. We've had AEW Dynasty. New champions have been crowned. Decisions have been made, and I kind of want to talk on that. And then I'll briefly touch on some of the movies I've seen recently that aren't just movies that have wrestlers in that. So we're going to get into that. So just buckle on in. And, if you want to hear whatever you want to hear, time codes below for all the movies, all the things we're talking about. So if you just want 12 rounds commentary between Finn and I, go to the time codes in the description of this episode. And then we'll get into that. But more to come. And let's dive into it. So obviously, I kind of wanted to talk wrestling just a few minutes. It's not going to be long. It's not going to be the entire episode. We're going to touch on what I've seen in the WWE, and then we're going to touch on AEW, and then we'll move on from there. So WWE obviously has been hot. It is probably the hottest it's been in quite some time. Right now, we're in the Triple H era. We're in the Renaissance era. Many are saying right now, especially because this WrestleMania 40 that just happened was the first WrestleMania without Vince McMahon involved, that this is the start of the Triple H era. I think you could also say the Renaissance era is the other way to call it, but some people argue when that started. I like to say it pretty much happened SummerSlam 2022 when Bayley, Io, Dakota Kai, when Damage Control started, that SummerSlam was also a really good one. And then I feel like from there's a lot of good decisions and bad decisions that have happened within the WWE. But I want to say ever since the Royal Rumble, the road to WrestleMania, probably even more Elimination Chamber this year, is when things just kept on heating up when it came to the WWE. And, my boy Joey from WrestleBuzz Radio, check them out, by the way, WrestleBuzz Radio talking about all things wrestling. Joey's doing it on his own. And, he's doing a great job when he gets episodes out. So go check them out at WrestleBuzz. Uh, 3 Z's on Twitter, I'm pretty sure, but 2 Z's on Instagram. Anywho, he was telling me like, oh, see, like, are you all in on WWE again? I'm like, WWE and I have mixed feelings, of course. WWE kind of got me out of wrestling at a certain point, especially when you're the only major wrestling company. Eventually you're going to get tired of it, especially with the way wrestling was back when I really started getting tired of it. 2015, 2016, and so on. Especially when I went to college, I was more interested in having fun, talking to girls, trying to do something with my life than just sitting there and watching professional wrestling. And it was a perfect time to die out, especially, 2018, 2019. It wasn't some of the greatest stuff, but there's obviously highlights within it all. Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan coming back, Kofi Mania, stuff like that you could really talk about. But WWE, I fell out of it for a while. And then when AEW came back, it really got me into wrestling again. And then the indies, of course. And I want to say we've just been in a wrestling renaissance. I'd say about 2021. There's been when I look at it as a wrestling renaissance, there is a lot more people out on the street who are wearing wrestling merch. I wear wrestling merch a lot, and people will, point it out and be like, yo, sick shirt, or, oh, AEW, or, GCW, whatever I'm wearing. It's really cool. So I've been kind of saying that we're in a renaissance era in all of wrestling, where it's like there's a lot more wrestling out there, a lot more people care about it. And, maybe it's not the weirdest thing, because I used to always hate saying, I like wrestling. Like, I hid that from people. I like to say it scares the girls away when you talk about wrestling. It still does, but it's getting a little bit more accepted, which I appreciate. But WWE, going back to what Joey told me, he's like, oh, you're kind of getting into it, huh? You're back on the WWE train. Kind of, yeah. I mean, ever since Elimination Chamber, I think everything's been pretty hot. Raw's used to be pretty unbearable, but I have been really enjoying Monday Night Raw. It's still hard for me to always catch SmackDown because I'm doing something on a lot of Fridays, but this Friday is the draft, so I'm looking forward to that. And then Monday is part 2 of the draft, so I will be locked in for that. But man, WWE's been killing it. WrestleMania 40, amazing, probably one of the best WrestleManias ever. Amazing. Night 1, I mean, we had The Rock out there just doing his thing. A lot of people were skeptical, but I was so excited, and it delivered. Maybe the biggest disappointment a lot of people will say is Night 1, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso. Didn't really live up to the hype as it, you maybe thought it would be. But, there were still great moments out of the whole show. Unfortunately, now Jimmy Uso's hurt. Drew McIntyre's hurt. CM Punk is obviously hurt. There are so many injuries right now. It's injury galore with professional wrestling at any given point. But right now, it's like, oof. But man, that WrestleMania was incredible. Obviously, Cody Rhodes finished the story. Who would have thought the man that destroyed the chair, the throne of Triple H at AEW's pay-per-view would then become the face of the company, main eventing both nights of WrestleMania. Insane. Night 2 was incredible, just the way they did it. I mean, I'm still super jealous of anyone that went. I'm also a little butthurt for undisclosed reasons that I won't say about WWE. But, man, incredible stuff. No matter how much wrestling has done me wrong, specifically WWE as a fan or, as a professional, I am loving what I'm seeing right now. Damian Priest, a Boricua, is our world heavyweight champion, and I am so proud as a Puerto Rican from the Bronx, just like Damian Priest, to know that he's the champ. That's incredible. Like, he was hanging out with the Yankees 2 weeks ago. Bro, incredible. So I'm loving what I'm seeing there. Talk about injuries. Rhea Ripley is now injured, but Becky Lynch is the new women's champion, women's world heavyweight champion. Like, that is pretty crazy. Bayley's champ. We got the World Tag Team titles and the WWE Tag Team titles. They're not unified anymore. You got Awesome Truth with one, Grayson and Austin Theory with the others. The titles, the Raw titles, I don't know, they're a little too circular for me. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. And then the WWE tag team titles on SmackDown, those are awesome. They look so much like the Ruthless Aggression titles, like the titles they had back in the Attitude Era. If they could just use a little tint of blue, that would be great. If they could put some blue on the globes, incredible. But right now, man, everything that I'm watching, I mean, the camera cuts, bro, the camera cuts, the angles, the cinema that they are providing with the cinematography that they're doing here, if that's what you could even call it. But it is beautiful. I mean, there's that shot of Sami Zayn going into Montreal that will live on in history. That was a beautiful shot. And then if you look at, like, I saw a video on the other day on TikTok, someone was comparing like Sami Zayn's entrance in Montreal when Kevin Dunn was behind the in the booth, and now with the new guy. Incredible stuff. The only major issue with wrestling in WWE right now is just Def Rebel. All of those themes suck, and boy, has Twitter made it known that those themes suck. On social media, it is a meme right now, Def Rebel, and hopefully, I don't want people to lose their jobs, but I don't think, I don't think Def Rebel's the one. CFO, some people didn't love their stuff, but they had a lot more bangers than misses, and I feel like Def Rebel has a lot more misses than bangers. And sure, people will be like, well, they made Roman's theme, they made Seth's theme. Just because, what's the expression? A broken clock is still right 2 times, twice a day. Like, come on now. But WWE, incredible. It is probably my number one company right now. I mean, there's only 2 major companies, and then the rest are, your B levels and your indies. And right now, WWE is on top, and it is crazy to think about that. Once you got the old pervert out of there, how much things have changed for the better, or what you're hoping. WWE just released a few people, which is natural. It'll happen, but hey, I hope for the best. Someone like Cameron Grimes, aka Trevor Lee, one of my favorite that were on the indies when I was really into the indies during my high school, like early college phases. So I'm hoping for the best for them. There's so many wrestlers that, will be getting let go from major companies left and right, of course. That's just what happens. But as I mentioned, we're in a renaissance era, not in just WWE, but in professional wrestling, because you have a company like AEW that's growing and trying their best. You got TNA, you got the indies. There are super indies like DPW, Prestige, West Coast Pro, GCW, HOG. There are plenty of places for these men and women to work, and I'm excited about that as a fan. So that's WWE talk. AEW, man, the company that made me fall in love with wrestling once again. They got some highs, and man, they got some lows. I mean, one of the biggest lows was when they lost CM Punk, and during Mania week or the week before Mania, you got CM Punk doing a tell-all, basically saying like, look, I hope the best for them, but this is not the company that was sold to me, and that hurts me. As someone who fell in love with AEW, and I never thought I would see CM Punk come back. Like, I am right now wearing the CM Punk AEW shirt because I bought like 3 of them when he signed, because I never thought I would see CM Punk back in wrestling again, and then it happened, and then it just became one of the worst things to ever happen, man. Like, but shit. So CM Punk told it how it was, like, hey, I was promised one thing, and over time it did not deliver. And it is on them. And, I still say CM Punk is a hothead. I think CM Punk, I have wanted to solve a lot of my issues with Fist, but you learn over time that is not the way to do things. And, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But it felt like a lot of times CM Punk never considered maybe it's not the appropriate thing to do part. And sure, when things are getting to a boiling point, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, sheesh. But if you haven't seen that interview with the MMA Hour, I believe it is, go check it out. It tells you a lot about CM Punk and how AEW were, and how he just came back to WWE. But AEW is the main focus I want to talk on right now. Now, talking about Dynasty, I want to bring up the champions that have come out of Dynasty, and it is incredible. We have Willow Nightingale, TBS champion. We have Swerve Strickland, AEW World Champion. And then just yesterday, we had Trick Williams win the NXT World title. I mean, it is incredible to see. We are seeing so many black champions right now. It is incredible to see the representation. You got black champions, Hispanic champions, Asian champions. You got Cody Rhodes, and he's Cuban, but he also solved racism. Like look at all these people that we're seeing represented. 3 Black World Champions in the past, 72 hours. It's incredible. As my boy once said,
but never forget, wrestling is for niggas.
That's my boy Chris right there, and shout out to him. But man, like AEW has had their highs. You got your Will Ospreay after tonight of just saw AEW Dynamite. He's going to be challenging Roderick Strong for the national championship or international championship. That's going to be a good one because Will Ospreay is Will fucking Ospreay, and Roderick Strong has been one of the kings of wrestling in the past 10 years. Just incredible work from Roderick. Man, AEW is delivering action-wise. The matches are top tier. Sure, you get botches here and there, but that's all professional wrestling. I just really need, I get it. They're the alternative. WWE is sports entertainment. AEW is professional wrestling. But man, would it kill you to get a little bit more interesting stories in there? But I want to say they're also kind of working on that. A lot of people will say the best time for AEW. Some would say the early AEW, the first year was amazing. But then there's some weird moments, of course. Some would say 2021, incredible year. I mean, that's when going into that, we had, is that the same year we got Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk all in one year? Incredible stuff. Now, if you look at the roster, it's one of the most stacked rosters in wrestling history. And, it's incredible right now. Modern day wrestling, they might have one of the strongest rosters, bell to bell wise. And then it's just the promo part, the acting part is where they need some help in, the storyline part. And, right now we're seeing some interesting stuff after Dynamite. During Dynamite, the ending, we're seeing almost what is the Elite becoming the NWO, taking out Tony Khan. You got Jack Perry working with them. That was really cool to see Jack Perry come out wearing a Sting mask, the scapegoat, costing FTR the tag team title, so the Young Bucks to become the 3rd time tag team champs. That was a really good way to end that match. And, the connection between it all. A lot of people will say it's a mixed bag of how they feel when it came to them showing the all-in footage with CM Punk and Jack Perry getting into a scuffle. But I do like the turn that AEW did where they used it as Young Bucks as fuel to be this distracted us, and that's why we didn't win it all in. And obviously, FTR is friends with Punk. Punk is an enemy of Jack Perry, who CM Punk is also an enemy of the Young Bucks. So then having that all play into it kayfabe-wise, beautiful work right now. Now it looks like the Elite of Kenny Omega's not even the Elite, but he might return next week to AEW, which will be very interesting, especially with Forbidden Door on the way. And, that's going to be in Long Island. I can't wait to go to that. But you have Okada, the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, possibly a part of the new Elite. We might be getting the new world order of AEW, taking it in that they're we're the guys. We own this company, and we're going to do whatever they want. Run it roughshod. They're going to go after a world title eventually, so that'll be interesting too. But man, AEW needs, my biggest thing when watching it, it's all right, TK, we learned from the CM Punk interview, people don't think you're a boss. You need to step up and, hey, I'm do what you want to do. I don't work there. I would love to work there, but at least from what I'm hearing on an outside perspective, non-biased, it sounds like there needs to be stepping up some areas there. Sounds like some, the prisoners are running the asylum kind of bit, especially with how CM Punk felt. And then also look at the venue sizes. You don't want to harp on that because the show is what's really selling it. By the end of the day, hey, you got to give it to CM Punk. CM Punk's hey, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And if you're running shows that barely have a crowd and we're here running sellout after sellout after sellout, we're not in the same business, which is true. If you're in the world of professional wrestling, if you're in this business, you want sellout shows. If you're trying to be a competitor to WWE, you want sellout shows. And hey, when I went to Grand Slam, that was a pretty packed place. When I've went to World End, when I went to Full Gear, really sold out kind of venues. But then you're seeing AEW Dynamites and collisions with, empty hard cams. I would love if they work some smaller venues and they continue to show like why they are the alternative when it comes to professional wrestling with great wrestling. But just give me some great stories. Get me some really good writers in there who like professional wrestling, who have done some really amazing stuff. That would be great. Because right now, it is crazy to think that AEW is my number two and WWE is my number one. I still, will credit AEW for getting me back into the world of professional wrestling. But man, I want more from them. And for someone going to Forbidden Door this year, oh, I am excited. I mean, John Moxley is the IWGP champion. We got Will Ospreay that's going to obviously be there. Might get Kenny Omega back. And man, I've been dying to get another Kenny single match, crazy type of deal. It would be, I'm hoping that he's healing up and maybe he could wrestle by then. Who knows? Might be too early. But if we could get Okada Kenny at Forbidden Door, oh, yeah, I'm busting, bro. Will Ospreay somewhere involved in a match. Moxley. You got so many things you could do. That'll be amazing. Bryan Danielson. I'm excited. AEW delivers amazing pay-per-views. They are a little lengthy, but they are amazing. It's just their weekly show that needs to step up, because if Raw is kicking your ass right now, which, always rating-wise, it will, because it's the bigger product, been around for years, you need to step up. You need to step up, man. They always say you beat our developmental. Well, go after the big honchos. You don't have to go on Monday nights, but make it competitive once again. And that's my wrestling talk. Now let's talk about some movies that I've seen recently. I have been talking about wrestling for a bit, so let's talk about movies I've seen recently, just because I've seen a good amount, and there are some things I want to mention. So if you haven't already, I do have Strictly Nonsense still around. Strictly Nonsense is what used to be my movie-only account. Now I use it to kind of, it used to be my podcast. Now I just use it to talk about movies in general and comics and memes and whatnot. So here are some things that I've seen recently. I saw Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, the other day. I'm giving that a 1 out of 5 stars. That just was not good. When Zack Snyder was like, yeah, I want to make my own Star Wars. He tried to pitch this to Lucasfilms, apparently, to be a Star Wars movie. They didn't want it. And instead, he decides to almost like copy and paste a lot of things that you saw from Star Wars, but copy and paste it in a way where it's noticeable, but also not as interesting. If you want to watch Star Wars, go watch Star Wars. I thought this was just, it doesn't meet the mark. It's boring. It's slow. It's not that interesting. I was falling asleep. Mind you, I was tired. I dimmed the lights, but it just wasn't for me. But I'm going to watch Part 2 in the next 24 hours, and just stay tuned to Strictly Nonsense to see more about it. I watched Civil War, actually, yesterday on Tuesday. And that I'm giving a nice 3 out of 5 stars. Civil War, pretty solid. Obviously, if you don't know, that movie is about if California and Texas were trying to secede and they decided to form an alliance together. Spoiler alert, they don't address why they are having this, succession or seceding. There you go. They don't explain why they're seceding, which bothers me, because that's the biggest question that you'll have coming out of that movie. Do they need to tell you? No, but at the same time, it would be nice just to give a little bit of an explanation. You don't need to fully explain it, but you would think they would. And then I think it was a New Rockstar. I was watching their breakdown of it. They were like, these are reporters that we're following in this movie. Kristen Dunst, amazing work by her. Amazing lead actress role. Kristen Dunst is a reporter, and so is the guy who plays Pablo Escobar in Narcos and some girl. They're all reporters. They're all photographers. And you would think these people would be talking about some of the stuff that is happening in terms of like why it happened, because that's like their job. They have to live, breathe this, but no one addresses that. So that really, disappointed me. And at the same time, the ending, I thought was a bit rushed. Wasn't a fan of that. So Civil War was, it was a movie. It wasn't bad. I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. If you go into it expecting, some really good war, you'll get it. You're going to get it. Some great war stuff. Really well done movie. Just wish it could have delivered a little bit more. And then what else did I see? I saw Monkey Man a few weeks ago at the beginning of April. 3 out of 5 stars again. I thought that one was really solid. Dev Patel, the guy who did Slumdog Millionaire, the main actor there. He was also in, I think it's Green Knight. Dev Patel, amazing. He wrote, produced, directed, and starred in this film. That is super talented. It was amazing. The culture was there when it's like focusing on India. I thought that was spectacular. I mean, just amazing work on that movie. 3 out of 5. Like, it didn't like super impress me like some other films have, but I was thoroughly happy about leaving the theaters and being like, that was a solid movie. I can't be upset by that. What else did I see? I decided to watch because it was on my watch list. The movie Superstar with Molly Gallagher. Is that her name? No, I might know. That's her name in the show. Molly Shannon and Will Ferrell. SNL skit turned into a full movie from 1999. I gave that like a 1.5 stars. I thought it wasn't bad. It just wasn't for me. Like, I saw some of the SNL skits. I thought it was funny there, but watching this just wasn't my bag, man. It just wasn't. But what was more my bag, another 3 out of 5 star movie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare with Henry Cavill, Alan Richardson. If you like those two actors, you like action, this movie's good for you. This is a very like dudes kind of movie talking about, war. It's based on true stories or, based on true events is what they call it, with all the stuff happening in World War II. So that was a really solid movie. I enjoyed that. That was a good time. But yeah, I think that's all the main movies I saw. Right now, Spider-Man is back in theaters. Of course, I saw Spider-Man 1 last week in theaters. Never saw it in theaters the first time it came out, so being able to see it now was amazing. I think I still own the VHS at home or the DVD, so being able to see it in person, in the theaters, beautiful. Spider-Man is a 5 out of 5 for me because, I look at it as the quintessential comic book movie. I've always loved it. I'm biased, of course, but I've always loved it. And I thought from Tobey Maguire to William Dafoe to J.K. Simmons, everyone's casted so well there. So, incredible stuff. And that's basically all the movies I've seen recently. I got some shows I got to watch too, like Fallout. I plan to watch. Never played any of the games, but I really want to get into it. My boy Greg, who may or may not be on an episode one day. If you're listening, Greg, keep in mind I might get you on here one day. Yeah, he's been telling me to watch it. I do want to watch it. I just haven't made time for shows, but movies I can watch and get done really quick. I got to finish Shogun. That was really good. I just didn't get the chance to finish it because shows are a little bit harder for me to finish, especially with time and looking for things. And then Avatar: The Last Airbender I started. I'm almost done with season 1. As a kid, listen, hear me out. I didn't fall in love with Avatar as a kid just because I didn't have cable, and then when I would go to my grandmother's house who did have cable, I'd watch a lot of other things like Dragon Ball Z and things on, Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. But Avatar itself, like, the intro just, even to this day, doesn't do it for me. The intro does not sell me on anything. I think it's a bit slow and boring. I know it's like an American anime, if you want to call it that. I mean, American animation. But some would kind of fault it in anime in some way, even though anime has to be Japanese. But whatever the case may be. Animation, so like, it's probably definitely inspired by some animes, I'd imagine. But the intro just boring. Boring. Sorry. Not a fan of the intro of Avatar, but I started that. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's all the movies I've seen as of now. I'm sure by the next time we come with a new episode of WrestleCinema, I will have a lot more to review. But with all that being said, I think it's time to talk about 12 rounds featuring John Cena. Starring John Cena. Excuse my language. Starring the GOAT, John Cena. So, here's the review. We're doing 12 rounds, and this time I'm not alone. Well, I mean, if you're familiar with Project Kayfabe, Strictly Nonsense, if you might not know any of it, so who cares? But what does matter is I'm here with my boy, Finn. First time in a while we've done a pod since, well, we did Madam Web, and I put that out, but that was,
That was cinema.
It's still on the interwebs. You can still find that on podcasting. I still kept the Strictly Nonsense feed up. But I got Finn. We're drinking a little bit. That's why I just slammed my beer on the table. I just realized. But we're talking about 12 Rounds, the second movie of John Cena. we're going to have a different person for every other episode, or maybe Finn will come back for a couple of them, or we'll figure it out as we go. But Finn, what's up?
It's an honor to be a part of the second episode of second
episode
WrestleCinema. I was the star of the last two shows of Project Kayfabe and Strictly Nonsense. Actually, no, Greg was Strictly Project Kayfabe. He was the star.
Oh,
people forget that,
especially when we did the movie,
Friday the 13th.
The Friday the 13th for Jason Takes New York.
Yeah. So this is and talk about John Cena in movies. What better? We talked about John Cena being in a lot of movies that we tried to.
Oh yeah.
We cast him in, and I mean now look at him. He's everywhere, and did 12 rounds start the rise of John Cena in cinema? Maybe
it might have. I mean, the acting from John Cena, I felt like at least watching Marine and then this now, the acting was a little bit more there. You could tell he's taking some acting classes. And then, I mean, John Cena now, look at him. He's like not probably, but he's one of the bigger names in Hollywood right now in terms of like, if there's a movie out, John Cena might be a part of it somehow. Or like, I think John Cena's getting boots to, not boots to asses, but, asses to the theater or to Amazon Prime when we watch Ricky Stenicki.
Yeah, that's, I mean, he has a little bit of like just one-liners here and there in this movie, but he's now known as one of the best comedic actors, especially with Stenicki, and like anything, he just has great timing. I mean, Peacemaker, not a movie but TV show, that was incredible, mainly because of how great he is. And he's very serious in this, which same with the Marine, but he's got a few jokes here and there, riffed a little bit, but it's John Cena. And I was also surprised it was 2009. I thought it was earlier. But this is John Cena back, and he can beat everyone up phase.
Yeah,
he's
pretty
big.
much.
He's still huge, still a muscular guy, still known for kicking ass. But nowadays, he's more comedy than just action thriller type deal.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll eventually on this show get to it, but look at him in Fast 9, and then look at him in Fast 10, where he's like in Fast 9, he's such a badass, and he's the evil brother of Dom Toretto. To then becoming the fun-loving uncle in Fast 10.
Yeah.
Very quickly goes from badass to comedic actor, like within just the span of one movie, but 2 movies. So we're going to talk about 12 rounds. When I did the Marine, I kind of just went through the entire fucking movie from beginning to the end. But now we're going to pick and choose what we're going to talk about in the movie, whatever we felt was interesting and not. Good things and the bad, overall what we think of Cena's performance. And just what we think so far. This is the second movie of John Cena. The Marine was his first, obviously. And I enjoyed the Marine. I thought it was pretty solid from, when I was a kid. I always loved the Marine. And then when I grew older, I'm like, I should rewatch this. Finally rewatching, I'm like, is it the greatest movie ever made? Hell no. But it's a solid action flick. A lot of people are saying it's like an homage to the old school action movies, which I give it. And then there's 12 rounds, which when you look at it now, it's like a further built out version of the Marine, because it's kind of the same plot in a way, just a small change. Guy takes John Cena's girlfriend and John Cena has to go chase him down. I mean, it's almost the same exact thing. It's just the motive is a lot different now, where obviously it starts off with, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. He is... his name is, Miles Jackson, which I thought that's the blackest name for a white Irish guy.
Now that when I first heard it, like, again, I'm like, Miles Jackson, like, he doesn't look like Miles Jackson. Now that you say that, that's a black guy's name. And funny that that's his name, and, like, the 2 main black guys in this movie have very white names. So that's funny. One is George Aiken, and the other is Hank Carver.
Those are white names.
Those are white names, and they gave Littlefinger Miles Jackson, which is kind of a generic name, but better than Hank Carver.
I mean, when I say Miles Jackson, I feel like I'm talking about a football player.
Yeah, that's a safety. On the Broncos. Exactly. That's Miles Jackson.
But the main reason why this guy takes John Cena's girlfriend is because 1 year before all the events really happened in this movie, John Cena and his partner Hank, they're chasing this guy down. He has a girl with him, his girl, and she gets out of the car and gets railed by a car like instantly. I don't remember that from the first time watching as a kid, but rewatching that, I was like, what in the hell? And also, second up movie, because I rewatched Marine, obviously. The Marine, in the ending of the movie, the girl, I don't know if you remember the Marine, he throws her out of the truck and she gets hit by a bus and goes through the window. And now this woman just gets railed by a truck in the middle of it.
I recall bits and pieces of the Marine. I was more of a 12 rounds kid than a Marine kid. But yeah, no, I do. That's right. I remember mainly the movie. I just forgot little bits and pieces. But I'll always remember her just getting fucking absolutely owned by a car that honestly comes out of nowhere to a road that really comes out of nowhere as well. That car made no sense why I was going that fast and in that direction.
It was in a suburban area, so it had to be. It should have been driving like less than 10 or 25 or whatever.
I don't know what. It's around the marina, so I don't. It might be coming from the ocean. It looks like because there's a boat. It's crazy. I also like how she gets absolutely railed, and then it's just a generic shot of, oh, she's dead.
Yeah.
Like, she should have fucking flew. And it acted like she just got run over and she's just dead. But it's funny. And yes, Littlefinger, I hope this is what got him Littlefinger. I hope George R. R. Martin was watching 12 rounds and like, this guy is Little Diddley and Littlefinger is the diddliest character in all of television, possibly including movies as well. And Miles Jackson, he's something, especially that accent. I can't get over the accent.
Yeah, the accent, I was confused when I heard it. I'm like, why is this an Irish arms dealer or whatever the hell he is? He's a problem. But yeah, the one thing about him is he's a mastermind. He's a genius. I don't know. Because, obviously, I think it's the timeline is 3 weeks that he got escaped from prison and then he's out and about, I think, or a week.
I think it's two. I think 2 weeks.
So basically. 2 weeks. And somehow he was able to plan every fucking detail to do all 12 of those rounds. I mean, how? Just how?
It was also, you're forgetting it was a year. He was planning this for a year.
That is true.
And also, I remember it being longer than a year, but I guess it was only just a year.
It is crazy that it was just a year.
Yeah, and Cena got detective and his partner. I also forgot about that. That was one thing that always made me laugh is that his partner got shot in the ass.
Yeah, I do remember.
he got shot in the ass, and they got detective for that.
And John Cena, he's he's sad about it. He's there was 1 year when they transitioned to the 1 year later. It's they're in a bar playing pool, and he's hyped about being detective. But Cena's like, well, someone died, and we got promoted to detective. I'm like, but you're a cop. That's a part of the job. Yeah. And you shouldn't even feel bad for the girl because she was his accomplice. I mean, that's just literally a part of the job. But yeah, I will say that year of time, it makes sense that he could get angry. Miles Jackson just planning for revenge. But the fact that he could somehow plan that there's a phone number that will deactivate the brakes, and this whole scheme is just a way for him to, steal $101 million from, the mint. It's kind of crazy how he could plan all of this out and then get out within 2 weeks and make it possible.
You gotta. It's a WWE studio movie. You gotta suspend a lot of.
You do, which makes me I give it a pass for it's a movie, but I'm like, wow, this he is Jigsaw Jr.
Yeah.
When I was watching this, because there was that one scene, R.I.P. to Willie. That was when I'm writing my notes. I was like, Willie, no.
Willie is a sad death, which I also think one of the things. This is a WWE Studios movie, and only John Cena is a part of it. They could have incorporated other wrestlers.
They should.
I think they could have had a big guy. I think Willie should have been played by Rikishi. I think that would have.
I agree.
Or I was gonna say Umaga, but I think Umaga died in 2009, so that wouldn't have worked because they were very. I think he. Yeah.
They would have filmed probably in 2008 though.
Yeah, but I think Rikishi would have fit better, or any big guy. It would have been funny also if it was the Big Show.
Oh yeah.
any just big, but I guess they didn't want to Cena was probably out a couple of weeks. They don't want to.
He did that in 2009, though.
Yeah.
December 4th for RIP or Keisha. I mean, Umaga.
So, yeah, I think they could have incorporated like it was because it's a fine movie and whatever. If you want to make a ridiculous WWE Studios movie, the George Aiken guy, that's Mark Henry in my eyes. He's just a bit like no nonsense black FBI guy. Like that could have been Mark Henry easily. But yeah, no, Willie, R.I.P. That was. I remember there's a couple of sad deaths in this movie that I remember as a kid.
Yeah, well, it was funny that you mentioned it about like so like a wrestler could have played Willie, which I agree. But at the same time, I wrote one of my notes while watching the movie. I'm like, at first Cena, I'm like, Cena has to pick up this dude because if he can pick up John Cena, I mean, John Cena can pick up Rikishi, Big Show, Umaga, great colleague. He can lift up Willie.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Willie, his back gave out. And then if you do want to watch a movie that has tons of wrestlers in it, then you might have signed yourself up for MacGruber.
Oh well,
I've never seen MacGruber. Have you?
Oh yes,
I've only seen the skits.
No, I am here for the skits. The skits are incredible. The movie is so ridiculous that it's incredible. No, I am so down to rewatch MacGruber. I love MacGruber. The whole thing with the wrestlers is incredible. So yes, I am so in for MacGruber.
We'll do it. There's somebody on the Deadlock Patreon that keeps on saying, please review MacGruber because they want them to watch it.
It is for WWE fans or just if you're a fan of comedy, if you like ridiculous comedy, you should definitely watch MacGruber. It is one of the perfect, like, it was kind of ahead of its time how, like, just ridiculous, stupid it was. It didn't get enough traction as it should have.
No. I mean, it's one of those SNL skits that become a movie. I actually just today watched Superstar, which is an SNL skit that turned into a movie with Molly Shannon.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It was a little rough. But
yeah,
Will Ferrell's in there, so it makes it a little bit better. And you mentioned George Aiken. He could have been like Mark Henry. He was a fucking prick 90% of this movie.
Yeah, no.
I fucking wrote in my notes, when John Cena decked the shit out of him finally. I'm like, why is he an asshole? He's like, yo, my girl, she's gone. He's like, you gonna stop crying about it? Or like, why is he such
While he's playing with his Hot Wheels.
Yeah. And like, you learn that like, like why he plays with it because so many people died and he blames himself for it. And I'm like, and then at one point he finds his heart again, and then that's when he cares for John Cena's trauma right now. But I'm like, he's a dick the entire time. I was hoping he was gonna die.
He plays the stereotypical angry black, just office like FBI officer, police officer, anything. Like he was just that to a T. Like no nonsense. Oh, you're gonna cry about it. He didn't care. All he cared about was getting Miles. He didn't care if Molly died. If John Cena died. He didn't care if what's his name, Santiago. If he was dead, he didn't care as long as Miles was caught. Which honestly, he's still like this. The only way Miles already escaped from jail, you had to kill him. That's the only way this.
Right.
But we would have gotten. I mean, we did get multiple other 12 rounds, but
I'm excited because I think I have seen 12 rounds reloaded with Randy Orton. I didn't watch the other one for sure.
Yeah. Cena's performance is pretty wooden. I could only imagine what Randy's like.
Randy specifically doesn't want to be in movies anymore, and I think it's probably 12 rounds' fault.
Yeah, because he's got like the looks, but he doesn't care like that. All that man cares about is wrestling.
Yeah, no, but going to Cena's like acting, like I will say, like, there's more, it's more than what a WWE promo is. So I give him credit for that. I'm like, there is some emotions, but there's some moments where I'm like, oof, like it's just a little rough. Like I think it was there was two moments. It was the banter that he had with Hank after Hank tells him like, oh, we got a guy that we could go find, and like, we just need the judge to sign the warrant. And then like their banter is like buddy cop banter, but it doesn't fit the moment, and Cena just isn't selling it for me on there. But like there's other moments where like you could tell he's pissed. I'm like that. So I think the best acting he did that entire movie was two scenes. When he decks George Aiken, he's pissed, and then when he's in the bus with Molly and is it Molly or Holly?
Molly.
Molly, right?
Yeah,
There you
Molly
go.
and Miles.
I was started confusing Molly Shannon again. But yeah, Miles and Molly. That scene right there. That was a good scene. I was like, wow, he really put himself like right in front of Cena just to be like, fuck you.
No, there are parts of this movie that could really fit a very good action movie. Like that bus scene was a perfect she's got a bomb on her chest. They're in a bus. Cena's tied up. There's like nothing really to do. He has to save him from getting shot. Like it's a lot of suspense. And yeah, that was possible. That was more than likely the best scene in the entire movie. And yeah, Cena was good in overall that whole thing, especially decking Aiken and then explaining like it was very, very angry Cena. Like she's got a bomb. You didn't know that. Like you could tell like that's how he was angry, doing angry promos around that time. But yeah, overall, I feel like for his second movie, he did really well, but he's gotten so much better. Like
the range will grow eventually.
Yeah, like this was 15 years ago. How he is now it's incredible. So but I give him credit for this being only his second movie. And yeah, he did promos for what, like 6-7 years at this point. He does well for, especially the script didn't do him much favors. This movie is very generic. From literally, I just keep looking at these names, the most generic names possible, and the dialogue.
Douglas Griffin is one name.
Yeah, Douglas Griffin. Yeah, it's. I mean, how generic can you get than Danny Fisher and Molly Porter? Like that, it's they weren't trying. This is. I think Vince came up with the names because he's used to just giving out random.
The fact that Vince is a producer on this film, that probably.
Yeah.
Like Vince will produce, I think, a majority of the WWE films that do come out in the first wave of WWE movies that do happen.
Cena's name. Like, if I'm surprised that John Cena never got a different name, because Vince likes always to give people not their real names. But I could see Vince is like, "You're a Danny Fisher."
In his first movie, in the Marine, he's John Triton.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a sick name.
Triton's
a sick last name. Triton Fisher. What's with John Cena and
he's
like
seaman.
He's a seaman.
I'm talking about the Marine. One thing I noticed. So that knife that Littlefinger kills the informant that's double crosses them, but then double cross.
Yes.
The knife he has looks exactly like the knife that was in the Marine, which I thought was
Easter egg,
right? Yeah.
John Cena Easter egg.
What are some other things?
One thing I really want to hit home: Molly. Her cut. I don't know what they gave her. Cut. It was a bad cut. I'm not a expert. I'm not a stylist, the women's hair and anything, but that was a horrendous cut that they gave the poor lady. And she didn't change it for an entire year. I feel like that's why Cena never proposed yet, which I think it was inferred in the beginning. And I think they still referred to her as his girlfriend.
They did.
So that's why I think Cena's like, I ain't fixing the toilet. I ain't until you fix your hair and shit. And then also RIP to the plumber. The plumber, man.
Dude, I wrote that.
The plumber got absolutely wrecked. Guy just came in fucking soaking, wanted some pork chops, and gets absolutely annihilated.
The plumber has maybe the best line in the movie. He goes, when he gives John Cena relationship advice, he's like, the one that goes underneath the sink. Those are the ones to keep. Don't want them to go away. I'm like, they should put that on his tombstone.
Yeah.
Because he's dead. Yeah, that was fucked. I'm trying to think. What else is some other things in this movie? Yeah, Molly, haircut, bad. Yeah, bad haircut.
Horrendous haircut.
Very nice woman, though, because she let some stranger just have her phone the entire ferry ride.
I guess that's also back in the day when you're not worried that much about, I think your phone lasted longer battery-wise.
Battery-wise.
I'd be like, after like a minute, I'd be like, come on.
Battery-wise, yeah, but also I think back then that's when everyone had minutes. So I'm like, bro, you're wasting my minutes. Like that was a time back in the day. Did you ever have a phone when it was like minutes?
Yeah, I think so. I just never. I never had to worry. I feel like about. I think I
We
had
were children, so yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have. I think I had unlimited data, but like limited minutes and texting, and like I was never worried about like screwing up. But yeah, I remember back in those days. But yeah, no, that's random but smart. That's little things. Littlefinger thought of everything. I'll never refer to him as Miles Jackson.
It's easier to call him
that.
that.
I said Littlefinger thought of every little thing. Oh, Cena's gonna call. Now I'm gonna have my. I guess it was his bunk buddy or whatever.
Yeah, because that's the same guy that they chased down. That eventually, when I guess he does die. Yeah, that's when Hank dies.
Yeah,
the guy he chased, that was the guy on the phone.
Yeah, no, and he also stopped when he's in the. Was it?
Oh yes,
truck.
when he's in the fire truck, he put
like
the car
puts,
in the way. Yeah,
like,
he was really out there as his accomplice.
And now that I remember, my main takeaway from this entire movie is Katrina did a lot of damage to New Orleans, but I think John Cena did more damage to New Orleans in this one movie, just with one fire truck, than all of Katrina. I think just cars specifically. Cars were definitely flooded in Katrina, but they were not wrecked like this man in a fire engine.
$millions of property damage, not only with a fire truck, but then with the trolley. That was another one.
This man was doing Avengers level type annihilation, and like the city must be fuming at this man.
I'm surprised they didn't try to arrest him.
Yeah,
because of
I
all
would have
this.
arrested him with the amount of damage that he's doing to just wrecking vehicles. Because I mean, he had no choice, but at the same time, like the city of New Orleans is grieving, and he's not helping.
Oh, not at all. There's two things that I also brought up where it's like you got to suspend your belief because it's a movie, but then also I was like, what the fuck? The first one, John Cena, you know, in the chase scene in the beginning, he like jumps through all these like homes. He runs through some black families' home. Yeah, he does that. He goes through abandoned homes and breaks through walls and all that. But then when Molly's on the ferry and he misses the ferry, he doesn't try to jump on the ferry because at least the way it looks,
he definitely could
have jumped. Because I look at it like that. He could have jumped there and then we would have never had the movie. But he decides when Molly is in the helicopter, which is also crazy. Yeah. She knows how to fly that thing. He jumps on that. Which is way worse than just, you know, maybe trying to jump on the ferry, which that I'm like, I know you got to suspend belief, but I'm like, this makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, no, he could have easily made that jump onto the ferry. And yeah, I like that you went back to the original chase scene of him just running through. He somehow beats them to...
Dude, how the fuck does he... He's on foot, because that was my thing. I'm like, I don't think they showed anything to be like the cop car was out of commission.
They shot the lights, it looked like. I don't get why he was like, oh, I gotta run.
Yeah.
They might have shot the tires, I don't know. But like, he was just like, oh, I gotta run.
He just runs the entire time, and I'm like, he jumps through walls, goes through windows. Any normal man should have been tired and dead.
Not Super Cena.
Yeah, not Super Cena.
I also just thought of this. If this was a couple of years early, is Chris Evans Captain America? Because John Cena just did all of Captain America.
He basically, because when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, they're about to do what was that? Was that Winter Soldier?
Yes, it was in Winter Soldier. Yeah. He was doing all of Cap's beats pretty much beat for beat, bar for bar. And lucky Cap was already, Chris Evans was already Cap, because I think Cena could have gave him a run for his money. Man, it was just fucking...
Apparently Cena was denied through a lot of Marvel and DC films in the last, like, how many years it's been. So, I mean, he eventually got Peacemaker.
Yeah, look at him now.
Yeah. Another moment that I was like, what the fuck? Same time, basically. So, obviously, Cena didn't jump on the ferry. But when Molly somehow gets off the ferry, in broad daylight, Littlefinger's able to just kidnap her. Not only just kidnap her, put tape and like a choker kind of thing on her neck.
It was
like
belt.
Yeah. I'm like, how did he pull that off in that amount of time? In the day. Because like, especially coming off, like if you told me this was at night, I could kind of believe it. Mm-hmm. But in the day, I'm like,
yeah, bro. The only way they could have made it seem look better is if the other guy, what's his name? Anthony DeLusso, if he was with him, like he could have taken her to a car.
Yeah.
Like something like that. If they had incorporated, that would have made more sense. But again, this is a movie. You're not it's you got to shut your brain off. It's just
you do. It's
an action movie. You got, and now rewatching this again, it reminds me. This is kind of a bootleg version of a Denzel movie that I really like. It's called Ricochet.
Ricochet.
It's. I don't think it like people. I think it's a very underrated Denzel movie because I've literally heard no one else talk about it.
Yeah.
It's very similar concept. Denzel's a police officer. He stops this guy. What's his name? John Lithgow.
Mm-hmm.
From I think he was a murderer or whatever, but like he stops him as a police officer. Eventually, years go on. Denzel becomes assistant district attorney or something like that. And this guy breaks out of prison and like doesn't go 12 rounds with him, but makes his life a living hell. Okay. Like does a lot of stuff that he does. That I'll just finish this point, but back to the 12 rounds thing. But yeah, that's what I noticed, which again, movie that everyone, if you love Denzel and never seen Ricochet,
I gotta check
because John Lithgow he's an all-time bad guy, and
easily
Dexter and this he's very good. But now that I said it, I want what's with the 12 rounds boxing theme? It really doesn't make sense why it's a thing, because it would maybe make sense if John Cena was a boxer and they want to be like, there's no mention of boxing or rounds until the capture. I guess rematch or whatever. That's what he kept saying. But like, it really doesn't make sense, the 12 rounds.
I think the director saw and was like, I can make something out of this.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he's like,
because I feel like, especially when we R.I.P. Willie, when we talk about Willie, they almost bar for bar. He goes like, you know, you both of your lives, you got to pick and choose who lives and who dies.
Every round could have started with Littlefinger saying, "Let's play a game."
At one point, he does, "Let's play a game."
So like, this is WWE Saw.
It really is. And I'm now, because I don't remember anything from 12 rounds 2 or 3, I'm like, how do they do this? How do they continue?
Is this
like a copycat killer?
Is Danny Fisher a part of this universe? Somehow are there references to, when that detective terrorized New Orleans by doing millions.
And I think they're both cops. I think Randy Orton's character is a cop, and Dean Ambrose's character is a cop.
Because all I know is the scene of him in the car, and he shows his badge to the guy. Like the guy's like revving his engine. And Dean Ambrose just shows his badge, and it's like, oh no.
Big gulp. You mentioned Denzel. I will say, Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. That's probably one of my favorite Denzel movies.
That's
underrated, I think.
I enjoy that too. My dad will be upset if I don't mention that. There's an original.
The original, yeah.
He loves the original because it's old.
He's an old man.
old 70s or 60s New York. That's easy. But it's Denzel. Denzel's he plays pretty much Denzel in every movie, but he's
John Travolta is just unhinged.
Yes, John Travolta is so fucking unhinged. And I'm pretty sure James Gandolfini is the mayor.
Yeah.
Tony Soprano's the mayor. So what's not to like? This movie is about as solid an average action movie as you'll ever get. Like, I don't think it's terrible. I think there's a lot worse that you could see, especially for a WWE studio movie. Like, this is one of the best you'll see, probably. Now that I think that if MacGruber, I think, is a part of the WWE studios, that I think is one in my eyes, because that's so funny. But yeah, this is. If you love Cena, or even if you hate Cena, which I don't think anyone does anymore because he doesn't get booed anymore, but it's worth a watch. And there should have been more wrestlers.
It's one of those movies you just turn your brain off. You want to see some action. It's good. And honestly, I look at it as like a step up from what the Marine was. I think I may like the Marine better, but the concept behind 12 rounds with the whole round system, the reason why he's doing it, I like that better than just being like, in Marine where it's like this guy's just trying to get out. He needs a hostage kind of deal. And, that's kind of how I look at it. I'm like, John Cena for his second movie, WWE film, he did a good job.
Yeah, no, he did.
It's believable for what it is. Some of the acting could use some work, but this is only his second movie. He's just used to cutting promos on Edge at this time. I mean, he deserves some slack. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun. If I had to try to think, what would I rate this? I don't even know if I put a rating for Marine. I gotta double check. I'd say I think I definitely did. I think I gave that one like a B something. This is probably like a solid C plus.
I'd say like C plus for me.
Yeah, like obviously it's the greatest movie ever made. No, but this is enjoyable enough that you could just sit down and watch it.
Yeah, you just see a bunch of just New Orleans burn pretty much.
Yeah,
because of John Cena, what he'll do to save his woman.
Oh, was there a great line from this movie? When Hank and Cena are in the bar and Hank wants to riz some girl up, he goes, "Hey, I know this is strange, but Danny wants to know if you think I'm sexy." I'm like, that's a fire line.
No, I gotta give Hank was a riz god. He was the Rizzler. He was rizzing up the girl that died.
Yeah. He gave her his business card.
For some reason, a police officer has a card, like if you need help.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, the actor Brian White. I've always enjoyed him in movies. He was in
what else was he in?
He was in The Game Plan.
He was in The Game?
Game Plan with The Rock.
Oh yeah, he is in The Game Plan. Oh.
His best role was in Mr. 3000, Bernie Mac, baseball movie. He's like the superstar. T-Rex Pennebaker. He's very good.
Oh, he's in Stomp the Yard too.
Yes, apparently. He's in Stomp the Yard as well. Like he was in. This guy was like a perfect sidekick in the mid 2000s.
Huh.
And he's still doing stuff. I would like to see Brian White more.
He was in Ray Donovan.
Yes. He's just been, I think, just a bunch of random shows recently.
Suits apparently was in an episode. Chicago PD. Yeah, interesting.
He was.
Beauty and the Beast, that CW show.
He was him, Riz-wise, in this movie.
Yeah, besides like John Cena and then like Miles Jackson, aka Aidan Gillen.
Gillian.
Yeah. Well, apparently Ashley Scott, who plays Molly, she's done other things. But when I'm looking at like nothing that I've cared for, but she's done artificial intelligence. She apparently did the Birds of Prey TV show that sucked. Apparently voice acts in The Last of Us. Oh, she was in Flash apparently. Jumanji? I don't remember it.
This just also reminded me of random that all of a sudden they just put in that Cena has a fireman brother.
Literally just out of nowhere. It's like, oh, that's my brother's
firehouse. And then
it was the way. I think 12 rounds, not bad, but the Marine continuity wise, when they made things make more sense, like the way they like fit things in. Like I always remembered when I was watching Marine, I'm like, why the fuck did the guy take his girlfriend? And then it's like, oh, he takes the girlfriend because he needed a hostage, and then the car that he was using got shot up, and they were just there. So I'm like, that makes sense. So like they did a better job in the Marine making minor things make more sense than I feel like this movie did, but still solid. I think that's maybe everything I have to say. Do you have any other points?
Yeah, no, I got nothing. Solid, average action movie.
Yeah.
Cena. I'll always love him no matter what he does.
Yeah. Oh, wait, now I forgot. So I do think I enjoy that the twist at the end was like, not only was this to get revenge against Danny Fisher, but the mint thing. Like we mentioned it briefly, but like when that pops up in the end, I'm like, oh, not only is he doing this to fuck with Cena, he's doing a major heist in the middle of it. And I'll give it to them. They made things make sense there too. Like the fire truck, why the fire truck needed to be a part of it. Because then he like tries to flush the money down and he drains it and all that. I'm like, it's all that was cool. That was good.
Because like it really, from what we hear about this Miles guy, this one it makes sense that's what I think Aiken's whole thing this entire time was. The hostage didn't make sense for him. There's something this is for some reason. It's not just to get revenge. There's some ulterior motive, and it makes sense. He just wanted money, which He's like, that's what I think the way they made it is because like, oh, he just wanted the diamonds in the first case. Like, what is it? What's the diamonds for this scenario? And it's just money from the mint, which no, that wasn't. But I just love his thought process of now I'm going to get a helicopter and just fly out. Yeah, like
he's like, oh, can you take us to Tahiti? I'm like, bro, how the fuck do you? How? That's why you gotta suspend belief. But how the fuck can she fly this? How did you guarantee that she could fly this?
She went from working at the hospital to I guess she fucking flies helicopters.
Maybe she's the helicarrier person there. That's the only thing that can make sense. Anyway, yeah. All right, so we're gonna, around like a C plus kind of rating. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of all I have to say. I tried to look into like cool fun facts or Easter eggs about this movie. There was none. There was nothing about this movie. No real interviews that made sense. The only thing that I did see was that when John Cena had to do the scene where he grappled down from the building, he almost quit the movie when he was told he had to do that. Because he's apparently afraid of heights.
Oh, wow.
So Cena's afraid of heights. Almost wanted to quit the movie because of that scene, but he ended up doing it. And I'll give it one thing, because I feel like in a lot of movies, people will propel down something with bare hands, and if you've ever had rope go through your hands, that shit burns. Cena had the common sense to put gloves on.
You got gloves, right?
That I'll give a pass. But yeah, that's the only fun fact that I knew about this movie.
That is quite interesting. And one of his people that looks up to him, R-Truth, is also afraid of heights.
Yeah, that's true. Won a ladder match, new tag team champ. But okay, yeah, I guess that's our review. All right, so that's been our review on 12 rounds. I hope you liked it. It was a little bit different than my review on the Marine, because I felt like in the Marine review, I really just went down like minute to minute, note to note. On this one, it was more of a conversation between Finn and I of what we liked, what we disliked. And that's going to be me trying to replicate stuff like that in future episodes, just talking about what we like, what we don't like, just because, if I break down every moment of a movie, especially if I tell people to watch it, it'll be hard. But you will talk about the good things, the bad things, and what we think overall about someone's performance. So I am looking forward to more of this. Finn will definitely be on for future episodes. I will get other people that I know on this podcast, from family, friends. What else? Like, people who I don't know, but I'm going to shoot my shot and see what happens. We're going to see what happens, man. So expect a future episode in the next 2 weeks or so, but I'm going to figure it out. It's a toss-up between, do we follow some of John Cena's cameos? Because when going by his filmography, after 12 rounds, of course, there's wrestling in there, but then he does have his first TV show appearance in the show Psych. And then he does have an appearance in True Jackson VP. But if we want to just, skip some of those cameos, we could go into the movie Legendary, the third movie to star John Cena, a WWE Films project from 2010. And this one follows like a wrestling school team, and I believe John Cena plays a captain. So that would be our third movie that we could follow, or we'll follow some of his cameos, which we'll do probably Psych, True Jackson VP, and he's even an episode of Hannah Montana. I might combine those together as one episode, or I might do Legendary next. But stay tuned to our Instagram at WrestleCinema, our Twitter, our TikTok. You'll get some updates there on what's going to be the next thing. Like I said, this isn't going to be a weekly show. This is going to be like a week, from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Sometimes it may come out weekly depending on how available I am. But I also want to take time and make sure I'm dissecting things. 12 rounds, there wasn't much for me to dissect from before or during shooting. It was just like, hey, all the knowledge that you could find really is that people have on the internet is just the movie itself. So I did that. So I hope you like that. Episode 3 coming in soon, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Expect that. Follow WrestleCinema for more. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheHomieJoeBro. I also have an Instagram dedicated for myself at @TheHomieJoeBro, and Twitch. You can follow me there. Sometimes I live stream when I have the chance. But with all that, I hope you enjoyed the show. Tell your friends. Leave a 5-star review. Leave some comments if you can. But thank you for listening. Peace out.